What is up, everyone? I'm Jeff Lemon. This is the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast, episode 139. It's crazy getting up into the mid 100s. It's crazy also these times. Like, there's nothing else. Every conversation that you have goes to the impact of this pandemic. It's the word crazy really does. Crazy and weird are used so often now. Crazy times, strange times, weird times, because there's like nowhere else to go. It's kind of like when you cuss all the time, and if you use the F-bomb just relentlessly for everything, then when something really bad happens, you've got nowhere to go because you've used a cuss word. You've F-bombed for everything. It's for the rain, for like the dimness of your lights, whatever it is, you F-bomb. That means that when something really stresses you out, you've got nowhere to go. That's just it. I prefer, because I'm a teacher, I don't cuss in front of my students. I don't try not to cuss a lot in real life. I prefer saying biscuits. And if I'm really upset, like biscuits and gravy. It's kind of my way of mocking me taking something really seriously when it's really not that serious. It's kind of a, hey, it's fine, man. Just back up a little bit. You're going to be okay. There's no need to overreact in this situation. So by saying biscuits or biscuits and gravy, it's a way of reminding yourself that, hey, man, it's going to be okay. But it is weird. It is weird. And there's not a stronger word for weird. This is redefined weird. This is redefined crazy. This is redefined strange, and it's so, you don't get any relief. If you go online, you start looking at stuff, there's no relief for anything. It's just, depending on the article, you can read one article that makes you feel a little bit better about where we're going, and so you keep reading. The next article is something that's just fear-mongering, or some fact that for a second you'd put that aside and like, oh man, here we go again. Biscuits and gravy. This is not looking very good. So it's nice to totally get out and away from that sort of stuff. And last weekend was great because it was sunny and I went out grouse hunting. It's hooter season here in Southeast Alaska. And they call them hooters because you are trying to track down a bird that is making the hooting noise. So it's technically a sooty grouse. But because of its hooting that tells you where it is, then they're called hooters. There you go. So last weekend I went out and set up a couple game cameras, bought a couple new ones. Just kind of wanted to see. I haven't really been into the game camera thing. I have a couple of them, but I don't keep them out too long. But now I'm getting into that. I kind of like the idea of tracking stuff, looking, seeing what's out there, and gathering information to kind of get that next level of, when am I seeing them, what times of day, just seeing what's out there. So I went and set the cameras, and on my way back, I stopped the truck at a spot that would probably be good for hooters. What you're looking for is you're looking for an area that has elevation change, so up on the top of a hill or some sort of cliff that's forested. That way the sound of the bird travels a lot further. And you just listen for the hoot and you follow it, which sounds simple enough, but the acoustics change drastically based on where you're standing. So I pulled off to the side of the road and I lowered the window and I just kind of stuck my head out, turned off the engine, and I heard one. So, okay, here we go. I got out of the truck, and then I wanted to figure out what direction it was, and I thought it was to my left, so I stood perpendicular to the road, and I heard one on my left, clearly in the left ear, and then I also heard one on the right, in my right ear. And so I waited a little bit just to kind of see if it was, compare. The one on the left sounded closer, and so I waited, heard it on the left, and then I heard it on the right. Awesome, here we go. All you got to do is follow it, man. All you got to do is follow it. Sounds simple enough. But you run into problems, as I did, because there's a lot of texture that comes with the forest. And so I started going to the left, and I entered the woods, and I was starting to go up the side of the hill through the forest, and I didn't hear it anymore. I, in fact, only heard the one that had previously been to the right, which was now behind me. I heard that one, and I waited, and I didn't hear the one that was to the left, or that I was heading toward, the one that was in front of me. I didn't hear that one anymore. I thought, gosh dang it. So the other one sounded so much closer that I got out of the woods, walked down the road, past my truck, and was about to go into the woods after the one that, the right one. I'll refer to them as the right and the left. After the right one, and I stopped before I got in the woods, and I didn't hear the right one again. I only heard the left one. So the one that I had just not heard, I'd gone after the left one first, and it should have been in front of me, and I didn't hear it anymore. I only heard the one that was behind me, which was the right one. But now that I was going after the right one, I didn't hear the right one. I heard the left one. So I went back to my truck, and I was just kind of a little frustrated because all you got to do is listen. All you got to do is follow the noise. They're making a noise to lure you in. It's crazy. It should be easy, right? But then I looked at the terrain and the texture, and there was a little bit of a knob or a bump. And so the closer I got to this steep area underneath, if the grouse is on top, the hooter's on top, and if you get at the bottom of the incline, there might be some texture between you and the bird. So the noise isn't getting through to you. So the closer I got, that meant that there was now something in the way of the noise, so it couldn't get to me. So that's why when I went to the left, I didn't hear that one. But as soon as I backed up away from that, I then heard it. And then the same thing happened on the other. So I've hunted for the last 3 years hooters. And this is the first time that I've had that happen where there were hooters in opposite directions, but both directions led me to some sort of block of the noise, and so it was really confusing at first. So I knew for sure that there were two birds. The one on the left was definitely closer, and so even if I wasn't going to be able to hear it, I was going to keep going in that direction. I knew I needed to gain enough elevation to get kind of up on that ridge, so I was up at the tallest trees that were at the top, so the sound that the hooter was making would be, the noise would go the furthest. So as I was hiking, I heard the one behind me faintly. It grew even fainter. I didn't really hear the one that I was working towards until I got close to the ridge. Then the line of sound was intact, and I heard it again. And then I would walk maybe 20, 30 yards, and then I would listen, hear it again, go a little bit further. So got underneath it, and once you get underneath it, or once you get close to it, there's a separate sound that you can almost feel it from afar. It's a woo woo woo, but once you get closer, like it's almost there's this extra little noise that's in there that kind of resonates in your ears a little bit differently. So like, dude, that thing is close. So then you get it narrowed down to a couple trees, and this is where it can be difficult, because just because you find or get really close to the sound, that thing could be in some wadded up spruce tangle way at the top, and you never see the thing. You can use binoculars, but it's so tangled in there that you can't see it. If you do, you might not have a shot. So I figured out, I had it narrowed down to about 3 trees, and every time, like sometimes they'll kind of move around, and so you think you've got it, and then you start, it's the tree on the left for sure. You go to that tree, but then if it moves to the other side of the trunk, again, your acoustics get all messed up. So having binoculars is definitely huge, to be able to really, you kind of lay down, and then you just look up there and you look for any sort of movement or motion. And once you see it through the binos, then it's pretty easy to figure out what you're going to do. But then you might not have a clear shot, and that was my first issue. I didn't have a clear shot, and it's at such an angle because you're at the tree trunk, and so you got to back up a little bit so you have some sort of angle. You're not shooting straight up, but then it's hard to get some sort of rest. Sometimes you can lean up against a tree, and then you can get a rest. But shooting at a football that's up in this tree offhand, that's pretty tough. So I leaned against a tree, but then that put branches in the way. So the only clean shot I had is if I was like a half squat looking up, and I thought, I'm not going to shoot this thing in a half squat. So I put my pack down and tried to set some things up so I was at an angle where I could kind of lay prone, but I was propped up using the slope of the terrain plus my pack plus another log so that I could get up and I could see it in the scope. But I had to like roll my head back so that the back of my head was like resting on my back. It was extremely uncomfortable, but that was the only way that I could get the extreme angle of the 22 up, and I could see it in the scope. And I fired a warning shot, which is one of my least favorite euphemisms, but it's often used. Um, I don't know how I missed though. I don't know how that happened, but so I refocused. The thing moved a little bit, and I was able to get a little bit more comfortable. And then you just kind of okay. There's no need to rush, man. The thing is right underneath you. It was hooting. All right, so I mean, you're fine. Just relax. So then I took a second shot, got it right in the neck, and it like the lower neck, like where it meets the body. I don't aim for the head. I aim for a little bit more substantial stuff, and I don't know. Maybe I just don't. Maybe I don't trust my 22, or maybe I don't trust my 22 shooting. But I just want to make sure that I don't like nick part of the head and jack it up. So the body tends to be a little bit bigger target, and so I go for that kind of top part where the neck meets the body, that upper part.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
So got it, fell down, took care of it, and brought it home. And the only time really that I have jalapeno poppers are when I get duck, sea duck, or grouse. That's the only time I have poppers. It's like celebrating. I love poppers, but I love like the homemade popper because then you can make it exactly as you want. You go to a deli or somewhere, and you get a popper that's a little bit of cream cheese and it's caked in breading, and it's a low grade jalapeno. It just doesn't. It's not very good. So I like coming home. I stopped at the store, which I try to only go to the store once per week. So this was an extra trip to the store just to pick up some popper stuff and get a jalapeno, and you scrape out the seeds, and then you go cream cheese, and then the Hempler's bacon. If you bake that to where it's almost done, it's nitrate free, but it's just a really hearty, meaty bacon. It's not a cheap bacon, so it's a really good bacon. At this point, it doesn't matter if a grouse tastes good or not. You could use a tire. If you have good bacon and you have jalapeno and you have cream cheese, a tire would still taste good. But so I lightly cooked the grouse, or not like overcook it, and then added that to finish it off in the oven. So I like when the jalapeno is still crispy. I don't like when it's cooked and it's soft. So it's still pretty crispy. The cheese is just melted. The bacon was mostly done before I wrapped it and put it in the oven for a little bit. And man, it's just unreal. And you feel good because you went out there and you found it. You did the exercise. It ended up taking me, I don't know, I think it was about 600 yards from my truck, straight. My Onyx said that's where my truck was and where I got the bird. But of course, when you're going up the steep hill, you're zigzagging a little bit. You're on all fours a little bit. So good exercise, and then you get rewarded with this bird, and then you eat it, and you just feel great. You're not worried about anything. You are so excited. You get home, and you do that, and then I set some shrimp pots in the morning before that, and so the next morning woke up, went and checked the shrimp pots, and had about 50, which isn't bad for me. Again, this is the junior varsity Alaskan right here. So I was happy. I set 3 pots, got about 50, and so I had meals for 2 days, and you just felt great. Felt great. Beautiful days outside, and it was a perfect kind of reset. You get so stressed out during the week because your work is so different, or if you don't have a job. I'm so thankful I have a job. I complain about how difficult it is to feel the same level of purpose when you're in a classroom with students making a difference. They're there. You can ask them how they are, and you can see if they understand, and you can make these lesson plans to help with the educational process, and you can see the growth. So doing everything through Zoom and doing review stuff on Canvas, it's just so different, and you get stressed out because you wonder if you're making any sort of impact. Right? Having a job that brings you purpose is the point, right? Having a purpose, having just that excitement for life it's just so huge. So having that, again, I am somewhat complaining, but it's within the context of I'm happy that I'm healthy and I have a job. But it is a little bit stressful. You hope when you're a teenager, you don't necessarily take seriously everything, and you want kids to take this seriously, do the best they can. So even though fourth quarter is kind of messed up, do the reviews, show up to the Zooms, talk for 20 minutes. Let's meet. Let's be academic as possible in these times. But it's hard to convince a teenager who might not see the point. Um, and it sounds cheesy and cliche, but some element of their lives could be at stake, their academic futures or their whatever futures, because that work ethic um, is so important. And if you show up and do the stuff, then that's great. That is the point. So by the end of the week, you're just kind of exhausted. You're like, man, this is so much different than it was. And again, I'm not saying that do not mistake me for being a victim. I'm happy that I'm healthy, that I have a job. I am unbelievably happy with my current situation comparatively. But it is different, and it is stressful by the end of the week. And so having a weekend that you just have, the big ticket items in Alaska, you're talking deer, you're talking moose, you're talking bear, but to have such a great 2 day break from everything bad that's happening and the partisan, just the political nonsense that's going on there. It's a pandemic can't even bring us together. If anything, the pandemic is tearing us further apart. It's crazy. Or maybe that's just the representation on social media. Um, but to have a break from all that and to go out and be able to solo hunt a grouse after setting some shrimp pots and then checking some shrimp pots, have that break and just be refreshed was so awesome. And again, that's one of those words, right? Awesome. Well, everything is awesome, right? I did an awesome job cleaning my plates. I did an awesome job reading. That awesome is used so interchangeably for so many different things of varying degrees. Words just do not do justice. But it's such a great feeling. So being able to live in a place where you can access that break from the reality is so huge. And that's important even before the pandemic. One of the attractive things about living in Alaska or living in a rural place where you can access that outside so easily. Now, I know I've mentioned it in that probably 3/4 of these podcasts. Just that accessibility to the brochure life and the opportunity to live that brochure life is so important. To be able to refresh the mind, get away from. If you had a bad day of work or a bad week of work or a bad day of work before the pandemic, what are you doing that weekend to kind of get yourself back together, get yourself excited to go back Monday? If you just sit around for 48 hours for 2 days, oh my gosh, that work is just waiting for you, and just that bad attitude, it's gross. Now with the pandemic, if you don't have anything to kind of be happy for, it's weird. It can be tough. So, some of my married friends are enjoying elements of the pandemic because they're able to be with the family. They're not taking their kids to soccer and baseball and tennis and lacrosse and basket weaving and everything else that's going on. Just it's that home time, and it's they enjoy being around the kids. And there are certain things that, depending on where you live, you can go out and you can go a little family hike. You can do that sort of stuff. And so, there's silver lining. There's whatever, but there's people who are determined to be miserable no matter what. Some of the people with the best attitudes, the people who, are just confident that's going to be okay somehow, because they have faith in their work ethic. They have faith in just life itself, and hey, it's going to be okay. They're in situations that to everybody else look kind of dire, look pretty scary, but hey, you know what? It's going to be fine. We're going to be okay. And that confident attitude, I think, man, how can someone like that muster that sort of positive attitude? But it's what it's all about, being able to somehow find that. And whether that's living in a place where you can get outside and hike around, catch a grouse, not catch a grouse, look at a trout, whatever it is to reset. It's that quality of life. Quality of life. It's awesome. Awesome. To overuse that term again. Well, we'll call that episode 139. Make sure you check out the music or Alaskan.com, social media, so on and so forth.